Hey everyone, and welcome to another Tool Talk. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe at the bottom right hand corner anytime during this video. And at the end, if you enjoy the video, please hit that thumbs up. And as always, leave a comment below if you have anything to say about the tool or any other things that I talk about during the video. So, today, this is an interesting little tool because the market is saturated with block planes. You can get a block plane for $30 or you can get a block plane for $500. So the market is full of just hundreds of different kinds, and it seems like every single company out there makes one. So it seems kind of hard to try to find one. I did a video earlier on the Veritas apron plane and why it's my personal favorite, but it might not be in the budget for everybody. So today I'm going to talk about the new-ish Stanley Sweetheart line of block planes. This one in particular is the 60.5. They make a 9.5, which is a standard angle, where this one is a low angle. The difference is the low angle is going to be a bit easier to go over in grain. I will talk a little bit more about its performance in the up close shot. So this one right here, I got it on sale for $73, and so it typically retails for about $80, give or take about $5. On Home Depot's website right now, it's I think $82. So, with every single company out there making their own hand plane, from Shop Fox to Irwin to Bridge City Tools at the $500 mark, it gets kind of confusing as to what you might actually need. And so this one is what I kind of want to look at today as just a good beginner's plane. It's not perfect by any means, but it's cheap as far as for a quality plane. It's in the $80 range, and I just kind of want to talk about what I would use this for. Would I buy it again if I could do it over? Alright, so let's not waste time. Let's get right up into it with the close-up shot. Alright, so here's the little guy, the Stanley Sweetheart number 60.5. The other one that they make is the 9.5, and the only difference is the bed angle that the blade sits. One is a standard angle, and this one in particular is the lower angle, which I prefer for my block planes because I typically use block planes for end grain. And so with end grain, the higher the blade, the harder it is to push across because the fibers are sticking up instead of long ways like this, and it's a lot harder to push that blade through. Whereas the lower angle is able to do a slicing motion across the top of those fibers. And so that's why I prefer my block planes to be the low angle, because that's what I mostly use them for. Before I get into taking apart this guy, I want to look at the box. And like I said before, on my other planes, the made in Mexico or made in China tends to be how good the quality is as far as fit and finish. This one's made in Mexico along with the jack plane that I talked about earlier, and its finish was great out of the box. This one has been used on multiple projects, and so it's not new anymore, but it still looks pretty great. I wanted to say a special thank you to William in 01, who has also ordered some of these tools, and he pointed out that the chisels are not made in either of those places. They're actually made in England, and I apologize if I led anyone astray on that one. That's my bad. All of their chisels are made in England, and that's actually a selling point for Stanley. So Thank you for pointing that out, and as always, if anyone has anything else to point out about what I say, and if I'm incorrect, please do that, because I don't want to ever lead anybody astray. That's not my intention, and I really appreciate it when people let me know if I said something wrong. So, what's really important about this plane is actually something that most people tend to toss aside, and it's these. The instructions. Why on earth would you want to read the instructions for a hand plane? Well, what it does is it kind of just reminds you that, like the jack plane, the cap for the blade is aluminum. And throughout this entire book it says do not over tighten because of fear of stripping the threads, which is my fear, for these aluminum caps. It also sheds some light on a cool little thing that Stanley has incorporated. I'll see if I can get it in the camera. Is right here is a set screw. So the biggest problem with these planes is the cheap Norris style adjuster has a lot of wiggle room and play in it before it engages the blade going laterally or forwards and backwards. And so Stanley has this new patent to kind of eliminate that without having to spend more money on quality control. But I'll go into deeper detail up close, but it actually does work quite well. What Stanley doesn't tell you is what size Allen key. And surprisingly enough, it is 3/32. It is not metric. This plane is, I think it looks really nice. It looks very similar as far as just these little touches to match each other, to know that they are in the same family. I just really appreciate that attention to detail. It's very nice, and good job, Stanley, on your part. So now I'm going to break the plane down and tell you what I think of all the other parts. So this cap looks really great and all. I just hate that it's aluminum, but this one does feel significantly more sturdy than the one on the jack plane. This is the best part about this tool, as well as the previous ones that I've talked about, is the blade. It's A2 steel. It's pre-ground at a 25-degree bevel, and the part number is listed on it in case you wanted another blade, so you can ground it at a lower or higher angle. I have not sharpened this blade since I bought the plane, and it's been used on 4 other projects, and it's still so sharp. So Stanley did a really good job just out of the box usability for me. Some people have complained that there was a little bit of cleanup to do on the plane itself. There might have been a burr from machining, but I did not have that problem. Where this one comes in as a budget plane, comes in at budget parts. This seems a little loose, and if you put it all the way tight, it doesn't wiggle, but then you cannot assemble the plane. I don't really like that. The bed itself, though, I did check, was completely ground square, so I do appreciate that. I hate trying to clean these up. It takes forever. This is probably what most people hate about the Stanley planes, is the Norris style adjuster. This adjuster has a lot of play in it, and you can see that it has that play because the hole that is in the blade is actually larger than the post that it rests on, and so that wiggle is from the inability to make a tight fit. So when you're moving the blade forward, that post has to move all the way up to the blade and engage it on the front before it will move it. And then if you want to back it up, you've got to make it engage the back part of the hole instead of it just fitting nice and snug like some of your premium planes. And I will do a little comparison right now. So here is the Veritas plane. As you can see, they are very similar as far as the adjusters. They use the same one, except this one has way tighter tolerances than this one. Okay, so these are both in the backed out position for the blades. And you can watch as you can see it takes a very long time to engage the blade. Alright, the blade is engaged. Where the Veritas, the blade's engaged. 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 So the tolerances for the premium tool company are way tighter, which this can drive some people crazy. Even when it's not engaged, that little tiny bit between back and front, it doesn't really wiggle. Where this one has a ton of play. So, what Stanley has done is put a set screw in here. That's what I talked about earlier in the instructions. And so what it does is you put your Allen wrench in there and tighten it. As you can see, there's no play. So if you want to move the blade, it moves the blade. If you want to move it forward, it moves it forward. You still have to move it forwards and backwards with the play, but the lateral adjustment does not wiggle. So, good job. The set screw is, I don't know how long it's going to last, if it's a viable option, but it seems to work for now. And what's really cool about it is once I get it set exactly how I want it, I will actually tighten the set screw all the way, and then this doesn't move. It won't backlash, it can't. It truly just locks everything down, and this plane is just good to go. Another feature that most block planes have nowadays is the mouth adjustment, so you can take finer cuts or larger cuts depending on what you're working on just by loosening the little finger placement knob and then tightening it back down when you find it where you want it to be. And it's good to go. It doesn't really unlock. So the negatives of this plane are the aluminum cap, which is not as bad as the jack plane as far as how uncomfortable it makes me feel to tighten this down, but it's still a little annoying. The play in this is a bit annoying too, but with the set screw, I can look past it at this point. Like it is significantly cheaper than its competitors. And the finish, you can probably see that there's some nicks on the top right there, and especially on the front. The paint just, I mean, it doesn't really stay, which is fine. I mean, it's purely cosmetic, but that is a bit different than your upper tier planes. So the pros. This blade is to the standards of any tool that I own. Expensive, like whatever the price point may be. I mean, it was perfectly ground at the angle that it said it was, and I actually have had less luck with a very expensive brand on the blade grinding that I will do a video on later that I will not mention now. But it was perfect. These sides are completely square to the bottom, so if you needed to use it in the shooting position, it does so perfectly. I will say there is a slight hollow right behind the blade, right here, in this little spot here that I'm making kind of a half oval. There is a hollow, and simply lapping it out would take that away. It's perfectly fine for what I've been using it for. It's just a good little beginner plane. I think it's a great option for people that aren't looking to drop $100 on a block plane, but still want some pretty decent features. And as always, to just kind of let you know what the prices are for the two big names out there that I would compare this to, the Veritas and Lee Nelson versions. Starting with the Veritas, if you were to get the low angle block plane from their website, and I'll put the link below in the description, for their A2 steel, which is what this uses, is $159, and if you upgrade to the PMV 11 steel, it's $169. So it's a $10 upgrade, which I would recommend. So let's say its competition for Veritas is $169. The Lee Nelson, which is a lot of go-tos for big name woodworkers, and for great reason. It feels really good in the hands, and it's more symmetrical as far as this face, and has an ovular shape for the thumb placement instead of a circle. This is all bronze. It really is just a beautiful little plane. It is $165. So if you're looking for a first budget plane, I would recommend this one. If you don't know to what extent you're going to be doing woodworking, I don't think you should buy expensive tools right off the bat, and I think most people could agree with that. The Stanley Sweetheart lineup, aside from the shoulder plane that I did a video on earlier, is a great beginner's set. Well, I've told you the two price points of what I would consider it's trying to match up to, and that's all I have for this guy. If you have this one or the number 9.5, please let me know down in the comments what you think of it, and if you like this set screw idea that they've kind of incorporated. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this plane, and if you would recommend it as well. Alright, that's it. Alright, so I've done an up close shot of this. I've broken it down. I've told you my likes and my dislikes of this little guy, and overall I'm pretty impressed. There are some things that I'm not too overly excited about, but at all of the other competitors in the entry level block planes, this beats all of those because of the blade, the things that it can do, just the little things that Stanley took into account, whether it be the Norris style adjuster or the locking screw that kind of keeps everything in place. It's just really nice, and it looks good next to the other Stanley Sweetheart tools that I have. And overall, I would recommend this tool. It is not perfect by any means, and if you wanted to go the route of spending that $165 just to kind of bump up into that next tier, I think if you could, that would be a great idea. But if you're new to woodworking and you're not real sure if you want to stick with it, this plane would be a good first one to get. It kind of lets you get a feel, and if you can do great woodworking with this guy and you enjoy it, then eventually I would get the more expensive one, because let's be honest, you can never have too many block planes. I know I don't have enough. So yeah, that's it for this tool. I recommend it. It's a good little tool. It's got its finicky parts to it, but at its price point I can overlook that, and I showed you how to kind of get around those little finicky things, and hopefully if y'all have this, y'all have the same thoughts as I do, and if not, please leave them below. I'd love to read what y'all think about this if you have it, and that's all I got for this tool. Thanks, and see you next time.